So what happened? Where did it go wrong?
I don't know, it's really hard to talk about, like, the whole sellout thing.
When the band broke up, when we called it quits, I remember the thing that I said to Blake and Chris was, I was like, we can't stop this band. I have tons of shit of ours that I have no idea what to do with. That was like the first thing I thought of.
I think I actually remember being mad. I mean, to be fair, I was one of those people.
That's the Jawbreaker mail. This is the mail bag. It was weird. People used to take a piece of paper and then they put it in this and then buy from the post office, they sell these and they put it in the mail and then you get it like 2 days later.
I thought Jawbreaker was gonna be huge. I thought that they were gonna bridge the gap between Green Day and Nirvana.
So I used to take pictures of these maniacs that would come to our shows. Like,
I wanted them to be huge, but I also thought they fucked up, kind of.
What's the score? Got a friend, the name is Boxcar. Cigarettes and beer and now some ham's blue, ham's green. Like a mind she hates to see. Enemies are out to...
There's something about being able to take those same 3 chords and putting a passion behind it that makes it fresh and brand new. And you could see it in Blake when he sang, and you could see it in Adam when he's drumming, and it was just there.
There's very few bands that can make you cry and want to dance at the same time.
I mean, it's like, for me, it's the Clash and the Replacements and Jawbreaker, kind of the holy trinity.
Hi there!
Fisherman's motto. Yeah, rough seas, hold fast. When bands break up, it's really easy to find it kind of outrageous what you fought over, and it can seem ridiculous, you know? But when you're in them, I think it feels like everything.
Here we are. Crossroads School for the Arts and Sciences.
I didn't even go there yet, and I totally knew
I
who
mean,
they
there was
were
this
and
like
that they were
group
cute.
of
That
them.
Blake up against this wall. It's not there anymore. Oh shit, that used to be a wall.
They were just dreamy. They were just this kind of like the outsiders, you know, like the greasers, you know.
Honestly, I don't think I would have gotten out of high school had I not come here. Because I was on the fast track.
You were dangerous.
Adam was a very wild little boy. He was feral. He was feral, to say the least. F-E-R-R-A-L, feral.
My mom and dad would roll up on people. You know, they'd roll up on people at the supermarket and be like, so who do you think is better? You know, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, the Jawbreaker. They're total strangers. And like, what the hell are you talking about? So they were...
I tried to throw him out the window when he was like 3 months old. And allegedly, my mother told me that that was a very normal thing to do.
This building, this 2-story structure here, is where I took French, where I flunked French, actually. I was encouraged really from the beginning to be creative. So I did like a lot of drawing when I was a kid, and wrote stories, and really liked monsters, and kind of tried to write stories about monsters and draw them as well.
This is the smoking area. I have a great picture of Red Harvest, our first band, sitting right there.
Crossroads School embraced the freak. Had they maybe been at different schools, they probably would have been beaten up.
And I was sitting in the back row one day, and I've always wondered about this little closet. And I opened the door, and there was a guitar case in there. So I waited till after class, and I like spirited this guitar case down the stairs. I fucking stole it, I'll tell you now. I recently moved to LA, and I went to like one of these punkathons at the Hollywood Palladium. And it was really violent, you know, it was really scary. And you thought you could be abducted or made to do drugs or like, you know, defiled in some way or killed. And I liked it.
Punk rock was all about, like, you know, you don't have to be a great player, you could do it, you know?
It was like punks knew how to do things ethically, but also kind of dangerously.
Joe Strummer and D0nt told me directly to start a band. It was kind of surf, kind of noise.
Yeah, and kind of goth.
Yeah.
I mean, it was dark.
I remember Blake had bleached his hair out, and it was super white and spiky, and Adam was on drums, and they were really good. They were, I mean, back, you know, when we were like 15 years old and stoned at house parties, it sounded really good.
This big building down here, that was our first show. We played 3 songs at lunch. You don't remember that? Everything was in E. It was in E.
When I really felt like punk was dead, then I realized it was a good time to be a part of it.
You know, when I first met these guys, I was mostly like a hardcore or else kind of guy. I had dreadlocks and wore a painted leather jacket.
We'd see him around and we'd be like, who the fuck is that guy, you know?
The slime guy made like all those clones of Captain Crunch. I was really worried. Like, which one is the real Captain Crunch? How will I know?
Chris had put up this amazing ad that cited all these influences and had fangs on it, and it was this really like punk rock flyer looking to form group. So I called, and I got off the phone, you know, and Adam and I were rooming together, so I was like, Chris is a girl.
Yeah, this is my dirty little secret. This is the bass, the second Antigua. The first one got stolen out of the back of the van, but bass I played all through Jawbreaker. I can do intonation. I can repair the inside of bass electronics. What else can I do? Complain bitterly about all sorts of things. Yeah, that's many of my skills. I grew up in rural Connecticut. I grew up with not a lot. I didn't grow up in a neighborhood, and I had very few friends, or just because I had very few people in my immediate environment. My little sister was actually a lot more socially adept than I was. She bought me the Sex Pistols record for my Christmas when I was 17.
So we thought, this is great, you know, we'll be like the coolest band because we'll be a mixed gender group.
We answer the ad, we make a date with Chris, and we go to his door, he opens it up, and it's that guy.
Crazy pumpkin dreadlocked punk boy.
There's like 19 layers of paint on this thing, so they thought it was too punk rock.
I think we kind of thought he was a poser a little bit.
The first show that we actually ever played was for my sister, did a performance at La Mama Annex.
My guitar player had asked if they would help him score a rock opera, which was called Under the Bad Star.
And so the music that we were playing was different than what Blake and I played in high school. Definitely, we're getting a little bit better at what, you know, with our instruments. And
the first couple years we were together, we spent a lot of time sort of coming to terms with one another's musical tastes. They were really into a lot of that, like later SST kind of stuff when I first met them, which complex time changes and stuff that I mean, to this day drives me nuts.
Chris's whole philosophy, as he told us, and this is a word that Adam and I used to throw around at each other, was contrapuntal. Chris was interested in contrapuntal melody.
I used to think I needed like an 8-string bass or something to have double strings, but you really only need the strings you have in a bass, and you can play.
He was always trying to find a counterpoint and a kind of tension through, you know, melody or bass chords against guitar chords.
He'd throw his thumb over the top of the thing and play with his pinky way up here and be strumming his bass. It was great, and he had a lot of good ideas.
And that clash of tones was where we found our sound.
I just want them to get their due, and I feel like if they played, it would happen. I don't know that it's not like it would be like the Pixies, but I think it would be bigger than people realize. And I think that it's been put to them enough times formally that I think they know what it means.
Adam's always real enthusiastic about it, and then we both realize the reality of the situation is it's never going to happen because not everybody's on board.
I just wish there was something I could do, but I don't think there is. But I'm going to keep trying, and if you guys have any ideas, I'd love to hear them.
It's all about Blake.
Exactly.
It's been like, what, 11 years?
Yeah. Yeah, easily. Oh my God!
Yes,
how are you?
I didn't mean to barge in.
Oh, please, come on in.
Did you get taller?
Jesus
I did.
What's up, man?
I'm wearing flat.
Blake and I, you know, there are weird things. I haven't really talked to him for a long time. We got married in 2001, and Lucy wanted Jawbreaker to play at the wedding. Adam and I were perfectly willing, but Blake wouldn't. And didn't even, I don't think he even said no. He just sort of vanished.
Yeah, what do you guys want to do? Do you want to listen to some stuff? Do you want to play individually? Some stuff? Do you want to...
Could explain our sound. We don't have our own equipment.
Why don't we go in there?
Yes.
Why don't we go in there
and do something?
And just show us your intro to Parabola.
Okay.
Are we like, you know, I didn't think I was going to play here. I thought we were just going to go through parts and stuff. Yeah. But do we want
This is coercion.
It is.
What
You're
what
forcing
you've
us
done
to do a
is
Jawbreaker
coercion.
reunion.
Yeah. No, you guys have to.
You want to fucking kill the mystery. That's what you're talking about.
Exactly.
And we made our first demo here. It cost like, I don't know, what do you think it cost? Like a couple $100 or something.
Yeah, I don't remember anything about that session. This is the house, I think, where we had to decide. In fact, I know we had the definitive decision on Jawbreaker in a meeting here when we had all our names in a hat.
That's right. Went through a couple of different, you know, name changes. Rise, there was already a Rise.
Semi-coil for some reason.
We called the New York band, just the three of us, we were called Terminal Island.
Black Dahlia.
Jesus Chrysler.
No one remembers writing on the scraps that went in the hat. It got pulled out Jawbreaker. It was like someone had slipped that in as a secret ballot. So we thought, oh, that should be the name, because then none of us will have thought of it.
In 89, 90, was when we wrote a lot of the unfun stuff.
I remember we finished that record and we were like, whew, like, that was great.
Unfun is something that I don't really like to talk about the experience of putting it out because it was the first time I put out an album and everything went wrong.
What do you think? Terrible. That was always his reaction.
No, his quote.
This is a disaster.
I wrote it down. Not a great record. Not a great record. When we started Jawbreaker proper, it was over. LA was over.
I remember these shows where there was literally like 4 people. It was like the girlfriends of the guys in the band and like their buddies.
And there was nowhere to play, and that's when all the pay-to-play bullshit started happening.
They finally, we'd been working our way up. This was a Friday night gig, and this was like the big thing, you know, even though we had to pay to play. And they tried to get us to foot the bill for all 3 bands.
I know that Chris really hated it here. He really disliked Los Angeles as a city.
I think that probably had something to do with the fact that it's always fucking sunny. I mean, eventually I got to the point where I wouldn't even open my shades. Like, it's another sunny day, isn't it? Oh, yeah.
It divided us a bit. If we weren't already divided because he sort of came in as the last member of the group or whatever.
Adam and Blake had, you know, been together since high school and were like the cool punk kids at school, you know, and Chris, you know, came in later. He was like the new guy.
It stayed that way throughout the history of Jawbreaker. I sort of always felt like some sort of weird fifth wheel. I'm having that.
Inhale, dude.
Chris is a character. Like, I think he kind of played to that a little bit too. It was like, hey, I'm the like high-voiced nerd.
Okay, this is called a flash. These used to be like a tie thing that went around and they would hang down. This is from when before socks had elastics and then a whole. I have these problems like, you know, trying to fit in or not wanting to fit in and sometimes doing it on purpose. And so I think I sort of drew a line, well, I'm from the East Coast and you're from the West Coast.
We had to get out of LA. I mean, that
did.
was clear. The people who responded to us were in the East Bay.
It's true.
We
were
couldn't
like
meet anybody in LA.
We were like taken in up there, you know? It was like our home away from home.
You know, there's something about that chorus where it was like that I want you.
I want you.
That's the kind of love song that I like. You can get married to that shit, you know?
Play wherever we never turned down a show.
No.
It's like wherever.
I remember a lot of Cover Wagner shows. I remember a lot of Chameleon shows, Gilman shows, and yeah, we played everywhere and anywhere.
When you would go to shows, it would be the same people. There was a sense of community. And San Francisco in particular had a reputation for DIY-ness, you know, do-it-yourselfness.
Kind of the maximum Gilman network and the people, bands growing up around that scene.
Gilman Street was, or is a nonprofit do-it-yourself collective.
It wasn't just like you were playing, it was also like you were working. You know, bands had to clean the toilets, work security, work the door.
If you were in a punk band in the late 80s, Gilman was your mecca, and you would, you know, book your whole tour around a date at Gilman Street.
I was in this band, Iconochrist, and we had a show at Gilman, and it was Christ on Parade headlining, and then us, and then this band Jawbreaker opening up. Adam and Blake looked, you know, just kind of like, you know, college rockers, just kind of look like regular dudes. But then, you know, we saw Chris had some tattoos and shit, so we were like, all right, they're a little bit punk, it's cool, or whatever.
Gilman was getting a lot of buzz, and I mean, eventually that was where we ended up playing all the time.
I think when they came to Gilman and everyone already knew the lyrics to the songs that they had, it was
I think they got a big charge out of that.
No, yeah, I think it made all of us like intensely devoted to what we did.
Because yeah, we basically gave up everything and moved to San Francisco and said we're going to work on the band.
That's true.
First day we moved into Sycamore, as we're carrying our stuff up the stairway, sharpened screwdriver on the sidewalk, used condom, hypodermic needle.
It gets loneliest at night, down at the liquor store, beneath the neon sky, a moonlight, 6 a.m., the floor comes alive with lights.
So we were working in that environment, and I think it really kind of colored the music in a way. A lot of those songs on Bivouac are all obsessed with identity, and that record is about location and identity.
I mean, a lot of it is about the change and just like, where the hell are we? What are we doing?
The song's called Bivouac. You don't like it, just take it easy. Jesus Christ. You're young.
The document of those months where we were just toiling in the Tenderloin. That was the only year we were really local, I think.
Right, yeah, we're pretty much playing.
And it was exciting because we'd go and write a song and we'd debut it in the neighborhood. I felt like that was a very significant moment for me in our band. Because I remember us playing it and I was watching the song float. I was like, oh, it's actually Bivouac. I'm like, this is gonna work. I was kind of seeing it go out and not dive. It was getting kind of transcendent and being very, I'll say it was fucking emo. It's, it's catharsis. It's the overturning that we speak of in the dramatic arts.
Yeah, we're educated.
That was the problem. We always were.
Yeah.
We started into this business with BAs.
That's right.
It was all basically live.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't think you did punch-ins or anything.
No, I mean, because it was hard then, you couldn't just do it,
Those were pretty primitive conditions, like, I mean, tape marks on a board, like, kind of crazy, but that's how it was done back then, and we didn't know.
I think we all did interesting things in the studio just because we were always pressed for time, because it was a time and a money thing. Anything that you've ever heard that we did is in its entirety. That's the performance. There's not like we took this little piece. In the time between recording our first record and Bivouac, we had, gotten interested in a lot of new, different kind of music.
There's the Roto Tom. There's the fucking Phil Collins shit right there.
Scrabble is our homage to Jesus Lizard. It's a Jesus Lizard song done by us. And so it doesn't quite sound like Jesus Lizard because we can't play exactly like them. I'm definitely no Dame Sims on bass.
I think when you listen to the difference between Unfun and Bivouac, it's like you really, really are aware of a band trying to spread their wings.
The mirror's down, but I'm still standing. Stand.
Just for you, buddy.
Blake's voice is what we call raspy, throaty, scabrous.
He's kind of up there with Tony Bennett to me, with his phrasing,
culture of brutality here that was, you know, became part of our sound.
Right.
Like we had these pop songs and then we had these punishing fucking moments, you know? Which is why we're schizo, right?
Right.
It's weird. It's a weird record. It's certainly not a hardcore record. It's also the first time that Blake, I think, he's starting to settle into his like storytelling.
You write like the bulk of the songs, right? Or all of them?
Not all of
the
them.
lyrics?
We collaborate. Lyrics,
Okay.
mostly.
It was both of us writing. Sleep is mine, and New York is Burning is mine. They're the ones that are really blunt, you know, that really lack a certain degree of the poetic ambiguity.
Are they mostly like personal or what?
Yeah, actually, very much so.
He's the best poet.
He is.
No, I'm not. I know nothing about poetry.
What Blake did as a songwriter was to take intellectual and emotional sophistication and infuse it into music that was truly like gritty, gut-level punk.
It was great because everybody's so sick of being dumb. It's just, it got old being the dumb punk.
The whole of rock and roll for the last 63 years is basically men singing about loving and losing women. Any band that was humanizing women in a way that felt real, that you could identify with, you just felt valued. You didn't feel made small by their music.
As Blake got better on guitar, and as Blake got better on vocals, and as Blake got better as a songwriter, you know, his compositions were more predetermined. So the vocals and the guitar had the prominent spaces, and then if you were lucky enough to fit in a fill here or there or whatever. So do we want to do, try to do parts of Bivouac out there? No?
I don't know. I don't.
Okay, yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah, but you should get Billy to.
Yeah, if
to
we're
solo
not going
for
to play it, don't worry about it.
Well, I don't know. I'm just a passive
I know.
agent in this.
I know, exactly.
If people ask me, like, why do you think your band is referenced and why people still seem to care about it, I would probably say that it has everything to do with the words, with Blake's words. There was another sort of leap of faith where we gave up our apartment, put everything in storage, and went off to Europe to go on tour.
No, you didn't put it in storage. You put it in my bedroom.
Storage.
Storage.
This is one of the stupidest things we ever did. Because we didn't have money, we toured to New York and then flew to Europe. Which for a little band is weird, right? Because you're like already across the country, then you're going to Europe. It makes me scared just thinking about it.
I didn't realize how silly like they were, you know, because the band is so serious and like kind of dark and emo or whatever, and for it to all be like crazy inside jokes and like stupid road games.
Wow, man, that was some of the kind.
People don't know this about us, but we're really funny.
Come in here and lay down a bit. Yeah, I don't think they did. I had no idea.
They thought we were ogres. You know, they're like, don't talk to them. They're aggressive, they're cagey.
I got waxed. So every like rest stop and gas station that we stopped in, Adam would be like, all right, here's what we're gonna do. Like, you go in and like try on the mirrored sunglasses or the blue blockers and like put on like the worst cap that you can find, walk around, drop down in the middle store and do 20 push-ups.
Then the tours were a little bit bigger and they were better. More people were kind of hearing about it.
I remember having that experience of listening to our band, and there happened to be a lot of people there being into it, and it was very cool. That's the only way I can put it, really.
Hear everything? Yeah, kind of. I'm losing my voice, so sorry about that.
Well, we got through the first couple of weeks of tour, and Blake sounded like he was gargling glass. You know, I mean, it sounded really, really gnarly.
So by the middle of the country, I couldn't sing anymore, and we still had 2 months of Europe ahead of us.
How play equalizers on hold 6.
And because we didn't ever think one time, did we ever think, why don't we just cancel the tour?
No.
When we played the first show in Belfast, he coughed up like a blood clot that was like the size of my fist. It was really, really bad. Luckily, we called my roommate and asked if he could see if he could find a doctor who could do the surgery.
We were really up against it, in a way. It was like, we quit our jobs and gave up our apartments when we went on this tour. So, it was pretty intense to be over there and going under the knife. But at the same time, it was kind of like there's nothing left to lose.
When your main instrument is in jeopardy of never being able to sing again, that's one of the scariest things. Oh my God, to think of that, like that he could be possibly losing his voice forever.
There was at least a week he wasn't allowed to talk. So we had to cancel the entire British leg of the tour, which was a really big bummer because we would have made money and people would have really been into it. So
I don't think I really understood how kind of crazy that was and how intense it was.
Boxcar and New Song.
Ah,
What's New Song?
It's New Song. Yep.
What is New Song?
New Song is Condition Oakland.
Okay. It's called New Song back then. And it says End Fade by...
In the early 1950s, the nation recognized in its midst a social movement called Beat Generation.
That's just the room tracks. That's everybody playing live in the same room.
That's so cool.
Are often a sense of coming nightmare engine calling our mountains.
That's Caroline.
And Steve Allen, we should add.
Because he's happening. Begin the land sentence, end of the world's gladness. All your San Francisco will have to call eventually.
And then I thought Bivouac was a really good record, but I still think Blake he hadn't really mastered the conciseness in lyrically.
When I first was in NYU, we went down to Film Forum and saw this Beatnik Film Festival.
Right, I remember that, yeah.
And they showed Robert Frank's Pull My Daisy.
Pull My Daisy, yeah.
And so when I became a librarian, we had the Jack Kerouac recordings in the lock case. It hadn't been checked out in months. So I spirited the Jack Kerouac recordings out from the library. And I used to like to listen to the tapes in the morning when I cooked breakfast, and have the kind of sweet spoken word going on in the house.
See, look at all those cars out there. There's nothing out there but a million screaming 90-year-old men being run over by gasoline trucks. So throw the match on it.
The language, the cadence of the language, and the reading. I'd never heard their words before. But all of that, I had a complete epiphany that night. And I came home with my girlfriend, and I said, I know what I'm going to do now. I'm going to write, and I'm going to write like that.
It's time to record our next record, our third record. And we decided to do it with Steve Albini. And, we had admired his work, and, Big Black, and Surfer Rosa, the Pixies record that he did. I called him up and I was kind of starstruck. I was kind of freaked out, actually, to talk to him. It was like, He's the guy, you know?
I had a studio in my house. Essentially, I would just answer the phone, and whoever was on the other end of the phone would book time in the studio.
And we kind of had that inferiority complex of like, we're this little punk band and you're this monster kind of electronic crushing super genius.
I'm fairly certain that I had mistook them for the band Jawbox. I know that I had this amp and this cabinet at the time of the Jawbreaker session.
I was talking to Albini about guitar sounds, you know, and I'm like, this is like a big chorus, man. You know what I mean? I mean, it's got to have like this big descending melody.
As I recall, we're talking about Jawbreaker and not Jawbox, right?
Correct.
Okay. As I recall, Jawbreaker had Marshalls.
So I wanted him to like break out the big guns, you know, and he busted out this little like Radio Shack amp. He was like, what if we do it like this?
I'm sorry, I don't know any Jawbreaker songs.
That's it.
And then it was quick. I mean, he works fast, and we had, I don't know how many days, I think it was 3 days, but it was like really quickly.
I do remember like exactly where I was sitting in my high school, like how the sun was, like everything the first time I heard that album.
I think 24 is just one perfectly written song after another.
I would go to a show and they would perform a song and I would, you know, I'd go up to somebody and say, what's this new song? And they would go, that's Indictment. I would go, well, this is just getting ridiculous. Every show, a song of that caliber.
It was just located. That's the thing. Like, exactly. I felt like I know who I'm in love with. I know I live here. Mm-hmm. This is our town.
Right, like
it's
a response to what?
I wanna be a boat, wanna learn to swim.
Blake didn't like the way the vocals had come out. And yeah, because Albini is not vocal heavy. I mean, he's more into the instruments, which is of course why I like the recordings. You know, as a bass player, as a part of an ensemble, of course I'm going to say music should be recognized as being the production of an ensemble as opposed to a single singer-songwriter.
Bass stuff's pretty amazing. I do remember feeling at the time like we weren't doing justice to the things you played on bass. Like you play a lot of notes, and I remember being sort of flummoxed as to how to get that across.
A totally ferocious rhythm section, like nothing I've ever seen.
Shit, I think he's one of the best 12 drummers in the world. He'll hear a song and he pretty much knows exactly how it has to and should go right away.
When we first played, I remember the early shows, like, was it you who said we each wanted to be the only person in the band?
Hey, here's the thing. When you first start your band, you're playing way the fuck over your heads.
Right.
You're like, I'm gonna put every trick that I just learned, like quadruple it. Cool, that's a great place for 15 of those. You know? Like,
when you're 3 people like as neurotic as we are too. Seriously, none of us trusted that anyone would carry their slack. So it's like, I'm responsible for this whole song.
Right. And then we were each kind of like,
Yeah, everybody had their own little like.
Yeah.
And then it was later that we learned a little bit more about dynamics and stuff.
And they killed us for it, didn't they?
They
hated it.
As you used to say 1, 2, 3, 4.
Those are great, man. That's the stuff that makes my skin crawl.
This was the first thing that was in the paper about them. This was from Spin Magazine. It said they play soft edge hardcore with an East Coast sensibility. I always loved that.
That was just the soundtrack to whatever year that was. I mean, I listened to that record. I wore the cassette out. I wore the CD out. I just listened to that record all the time.
That's when
everything exploded for them. I would look in Flipside magazine and see, I'm looking for a bass player, band influences, Jawbreaker.
When people think about punk rock in the 90s, generally they think Green Day is the band that changed everything. But the band that really changed everything was Jawbreaker.
I hear there's like some new band called Nirvana just starting up, and they're like really big in Seattle, and I have a feeling they're going to be huge.
It looks good.
1993 was like that's when we started kind of making money, you know, and you could count on a show being pretty well attended. We were getting more popular. We get a call about going on tour with Nirvana.
I was taking care of Kurt and Courtney's kid, and Jawbreaker was one of my favorite bands. And they, being much older than me, they were like whatever, like 5 years older than me, or he was, would always like check out my new records. And Jawbreaker was one of the ones that stuck with him.
It was a no-brainer. In fact, of course.
Nirvana, Mudhoney, and Us.
It was like this. It was just like, wow, neato, weird. The art on the side of that one, like airbrushed, you know, boom. The shit,
it was
piece
like
of shit.
The loading dock was taller than our van.
Yeah.
Like, how do we figure out how to put the...
You could walk on top of a...
We play like 25 minutes every night, and I think we all agree we were playing like everything triple time because we were so stressed.
And that started off a little bit of backlash.
Right.
That there were some people that were like, oh man, I know, I could see it. You know, the writing is on the wall. They go out with Nirvana, and some A&R dick is gonna see him and be like, oh, dude, what, you know?
Right.
And you know, of course, that's exactly what happened. I remember people being really disappointed that we were going out on tour with Nirvana. It's like, are you kidding? Like, we got to watch Nirvana from the side of the stage every day for a week. Like, what'd you do that week?
I mean, certain people stopped talking to us, like Radley.
The punk underground was DIY, and it was no major label. And Nirvana was, of course, major label, and they were playing big stadiums and stuff.
And it was a sign that they were going to sign to a major label and they were going to sell everybody out. And
it hadn't occurred to me that that's corporate.
A sign of heresy, really.
Once they went there, then they weren't really welcomed at like Gilman Street.
I was shocked that someone thought we could be unmade by doing that, you know, by getting in bed with the devil, I guess. And we didn't think Nirvana was the devil.
Now that we were on the big stage, I don't know what happened, but you know, my string broke and I had to tune it up. And after the show, I was like, don't ever do that to me again on stage. I was like, what the hell?
We had so much tension built up during the day of just driving and putting up with bureaucratic shit.
Yeah.
You really gotta load. That's a good idea. Now, not make movies, load.
Jawbreaker seemed to be in constant turmoil, both personally, the members themselves, as well as professionally.
Really, if you look at it, they always look like they're on the verge of kind of falling apart, you know? They're always a disaster waiting to happen.
I don't want to drive anymore. I don't want to read anymore. I don't want to stop at any more McDonald's or whatever, Denny.
Their eccentricities were like, you know, sort of eating away at each other.
No, I would put on Black Flag, and you would say...
Lose my mind. Yeah. I fucking hate Black Flag, is what I say.
Okay, that does not make the picture. It's out.
The studio with me, Jawbreaker. I'm not even going to begin to try to pronounce your last names because I can't. So
Chris did not suffer foolish interview questions. That was what used to put me on edge. I'd be like, Chris, man, be easy on this kid. Like, it's okay. He loves your band.
his name's Blake, Chris, and
Adam.
Adam.
ABC, good mnemonic to
Oh,
remember.
I
usually got that point after like, what, 2-3 weeks on tour? And I slowly just sort of descended into evil Chris.
Oh, well, or when Chris or Adam would be like, oh, no, no one wants to talk to us because, we're Blake's backing band.
They actually told me I was not allowed to talk to interviewers because I said stupid things and I'd talk about things and I didn't represent, I don't know if they wanted, you'd have to ask Blake what he meant by it. Please, go ahead, ask him what he was thinking. I have no idea.
I think at that point, Chris and Adam didn't want to do press, and we kind of just divided duties so that I would speak.
Yeah, tensions were definitely apparent. Just meltdowns and rants and tantrums and screaming.
I think it was one of the reasons we made the move to try to get signed to a major. We decided, I don't know if you've talked to Blake about that. Maybe I should, at this point I think I should stop talking on film.
A lot of people, when they look at punk rock in the 90s, what we see is, this sort of nuclear moment of Green Day.
It was the feeding. It was the post-Green Day feeding frenzy. Sam I Am was going through it. Jawbox was going through it.
But the thing that everyone really wanted was Jawbreaker.
I found out about Jawbreaker because they went on tour with Nirvana. And I could act like I was, at Gilman Street back in the day, but I wasn't.
The only thing anyone was talking about was, is Jawbreaker gonna sign? Because at the time they were kind of the last thing that really felt like ours.
You may have read that we were on a major label. That's bullshit. Although we've been courted by a lot of major labels, we're not interested in that.
I was at a show once, and Blake said to the audience that there were rumors going around that they were signing with a major.
I heard this rumor just hit Chicago, so I'll take the opportunity to dispel it right now.
So he says that, and from my perspective, I was like, I'm the only person here that has signed a major label contract. So I was like, talk about being the loneliest guy in the room at that point.
And he said that the rumors were not true, and that Jawbreaker would never sign with a major.
I guess it was printed in a couple places that we had signed to a major label, and that's not true, actually.
I was going, dude, don't say that. Don't say, because you never know.
I think it was about 4 weeks later that they signed with a major.
We changed our mind. That's what people do. That's what we did. We changed our mind.
So you guys are on Geffen now, right?
Well, we're not yet.
Oh.
But probably within a matter of days.
Okay. Any chance you can talk about the contract?
Well, we're getting a shitload of money.
Okay.
And, I'll just be upfront about that because, there's no way to play it off.
How much is a shitload?
I don't.
Okay.
It's hard to say that because it wouldn't make sense.
Okay.
But it's enough to make a record.
Okay.
Pretty lavishly.
Was it in retrospect we decided we were either we're gonna do this or we're gonna break up, or?
That's what we said.
Yeah.
It's exactly what we said.
Yeah, exactly. We were like.
As I recall, the decision seemed very kamikaze. It was like, maybe we won't go on as a band, or we're gonna do something really different and sign to a major label.
Not long afterwards, Jeff Saltzman called me up and said, we're managing Jawbreaker and they want to talk to labels. And I'm like, can I get on a plane today?
From then on, it was pretty much, things started happening really quickly.
And then it was months of, the process of signing.
All of that the whole courtship thing is pretty vivid in my mind. They'd say shit to us like, guys gotta sign with us here. We love your band. It was like the opening paragraph was the same at every single place. We really love what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. We would make you our #1 priority.
If you were to turn to them and say, what's your favorite song? They'd be like, the one. That one you guys do.
I remember one guy said, listen, you guys, I'm a fucking maniac and I hate to lose.
We weren't really that open to like losing things. We weren't open to losing bands to other labels.
So we're just kind of laying there and just like, oh man, like what the fuck? Are we really gonna do this? Like, are we really doing this? I mean, the thing wrote itself, you know what I mean? It was like, we know how this is gonna end because it happens to everybody. It's like you start out with this little tiny, you know, this like it's rags to riches to rags. It's gonna happen to us. It's probably gonna happen.
Dear You takes 3 months to record. That's just a recording. And I think it actually ended up being like 10 weeks.
Using the Green Day formula, which had been proven, we got Rob Cavallo.
I didn't know Rob Cavallo at the time, so this is funny, but I'm like, wow, he's gonna produce them? Like, what's up with that? You know, well, Rob Cavallo's one of the most esteemed record producers in the history of rock music. You can easily say at this point.
Guitars are great.
How many guitars are there?
There's only 3. There's only 3 guitars.
The word on the street was that there were 16 guitars.
In hindsight, I think it's the album I tried to forget the most. And it's the album I was probably, in a lot of ways, least involved in.
It seemed like 5 days or something that those guys did pretty much all their stuff. And then there was another month of like guitars, vocals. So I was in there a long time.
You know, at the time, I resented the fact that, you know, he had written the bass line, more or less. You know, I felt that he'd written the bass line. I think I had some leeway, but...
Obviously, the arrangements and the tempos and, you know, things changed. It wasn't like we didn't have our say or something, or he was lording it over us.
No, but I mean...
It was just different, you know.
Yeah,
it was pouring out.
Right,
you know what I mean?
I remember they played me one song, and I can't remember what song it was, but it sounded like an ocean of guitars.
The guitars on this song are like, I think they're actually some of the best I ever did.
And I was like, oh my God, this sounds so good.
What I remember most is driving down the main turnpike back to Boston, blasting that record as loud as the stereo could go. And it honestly wasn't loud enough for me.
I thought we had a beat.
I love these.
I really did. I really thought I was so confident with when we were done with that record. I was so confident that we made a good record.
When we put it out, we thought it was just going to be like a clutch of robins flying out into the world. You know, we're like, here.
And everyone's kind of like, whoa, this is really clean. Or I remember them saying like, the vocals are so rich. This is something new for you. Like they were a little freaked out.
I don't know. It was the album, the production, the songwriting. I don't know what it was. Something went wrong.
I hated everything it represented. I hated the way it sounded. I hated the lyrics. I didn't like anything about it.
I remember thinking, well, if you want Green Day Part 2, maybe this is your idea of how to turn that into that.
God, we tried. What? We had the same agent as Green Day. We had the same video producer as Green Day. We had the same, you know, audio producer as Green Day. We tried, you know, whatever. I think it was all a stupid move, but.
Guy was playing the new Jawbreaker record, and he says, I said, what's that? And he goes, it's Jawbreaker. And he goes, I'm like, what happened?
It sucks, man. When you do your band, you gotta take a picture of your band. We ended up using, you know, us hanging out on Blake's couch, which I could see that. Like, we probably had hung out on Blake's couch before. But, you know, did we ever stand up on top in an abandoned bus, you know, at sunset looking tough? Probably didn't happen. And yet there we are, doing just that.
The band had a great video, a great single at radio, some huge tours, and it didn't sell that well. Some of us have never really recovered from the disappointment of that.
It didn't sell as well as everybody was maybe kind of hoping. What did you...
Well, you know, Lou Reed's Transformer didn't sell very well either.
No one bought it. Huge backlash in the punk rock world.
I have a really great flyer here that's like how Jawbreaker is like Walmart. Just how much does Jawbreaker really care?
You can go to the hardware store on your block, or you can go to Home Depot.
Currently in the punk scene, trust is being attacked and is destroyed by the actions of bands like Jawbreaker.
So people would go through like a Vogue where you'd be really popular for a while, and then suddenly you would be a pariah and you'd done something bad.
It was like the equivalent of that Bob Dylan thing when he went electric. You know, it was like our generation's version of that.
But so what? They lied to their audience. That's nothing new for a band, right? Well, let me ask you a question. Why did they have to lie at all?
At the Roxy, kids showed up and literally like sat with their backs to the stage when songs from Dear You were performed. People who had paid.
In short, they sold our trust out.
You don't own me. There's no rings on these fingers.
For kids to have their backs to the stage at a show that they bought tickets to, I mean, that's a pretty intense thing.
The crowds were just sort of, had paid the price of admission in order to express their disappointment with the band.
All these people who had loved them and dedicated practically their life to them were like, they're the worst thing in the world. It's like, well, wait a minute, they're the same people, you know. You've trusted these guys, you know, listen to their music for ages. Like, why don't you listen to what they're saying, you know?
There is this whole degree of who paid off who and who's getting radio airplay and, you know, which company has decided to promote which person's band. And
plus all of this, you know, bullshit that you have to go through that I had no idea until I did it, where, you know, Live 105 will play Jawbreaker's record if, you know, Green Day will give us, you know, some single 5 seconds before somebody else, or...
I mean, we were pursuing it. We were trying to make the big time, you know, and we didn't.
They were like heroes, I think, at the record company until like 3 days after it came out. It hadn't sold 1 million copies, and then they were just like ghosts.
They gave a couple of singles to radio, and they didn't work, so they just basically gave up on it.
I think Dear You and the subsequent tour was probably the last stage of me becoming really disengaged. You know, I don't know what was a reaction to.
We were losing Chris.
Yeah, I was doing other things. I was realizing, you know, I didn't want to do this forever.
There was a really notorious night in Providence where we flew Louis Largent in because we thought maybe if he saw the band play, we would do better at MTV, and it was like a disaster in every way imaginable. It was not a good show.
Okay, hi, thanks a lot for waiting and during the heat and everything. For Jawbreaker last night was definitely the worst show of our career ever.
I remember when they played those shows in the Jawbox tour, and it was uncomfortable.
There was kind of this weird unspoken feeling that it was all kind of wrapping up.
I think we were tired of, you know, just the grind. I don't know, kind of like we were getting to our wits' end, I think.
That's all it is. That's all right. Do you want to talk about Chesterfield King at all? The Descending, remember talking about the Descending?
Yeah, I'm not doing that one. Let's just cut that.
Okay.
I don't even know what it is.
You want to talk about Accent at all?
No.
Okay. Is there anything else that stands out that you want to give a crack at? Just for the kids. The kids know. Wanted to talk about Shield Your Eyes. You want to strum down a little bit? You can say no. Just ask.
No, I don't actually. I don't.
Okay. Was there any stuff?
I'll tell you, I'll tell you why this is hard for me. Let me tell you, honestly. This is what Newton did to the rainbow, and the Romantics talk about this, that Newton tried to isolate the colors of the rainbow and name the colors, thereby crucifying the mystery. See what I'm saying? Separating out the colors of the rainbow, and I think Jawbreaker is actually this kind of aggregate of energy, and when you begin to pull away the parts, they become less interesting.
I think at that point, quite honestly, Blake had kind of moved on. Like, I think he realized that he wanted to grow as a, as like a singer and a songwriter and as an artist kind of outside of the confines of the band.
I think that would give me pause. Like, that's sad to me, because you have to be always moving to the new.
Since the band formed, has it been pretty smooth?
No, it's been war all the time.
In like what sense? Any stories?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I don't know. We would fight like crazy, and then we had some pretty brutal tours.
Yeah.
So I guess you want me to tell the story of the end of the band in front of the cemetery? Is that?
It just worked out that way. I wasn't trying to make that happen.
Well, in my defense, I would say, I was really drunk. And I know that's a poor defense.
It was the Foo Fighters tour, 96, spring of 96. It started off pretty good. And then, I don't know, something went wrong.
Blake was being kind of a jerk. Remember, he was never a big fan of Chris's driving, and Chris was driving the van.
And then Blake spit gum in my hair.
And I was kind of like, oh, no.
I was like, you know what? I've had it. I'm sick and tired of being, a servant to your prima donna, ego.
I'm told that I screamed, "You've been ruining my life since I met you." And I don't remember that, but I do remember the sentiment.
And I threw the car into park, and I went for it.
Chris pulled over and it just kind of jumped at Blake.
Went full on, just like with choke hands.
We tumbled out of the van to go fight, to have it out.
Anthony was pulling Blake and Chris back into the van.
And they were both kind of swinging wildly and hitting me instead.
Where it was kind of like the dam just broke.
Anthony called me and told me that they had this big blowout, and I was like, so is that it? Should we even play the rest of these shows? Did we break up? Is it over, I
remember walking from my house on 22nd in San Jose, and we were having a meeting. I said, I just can't do this anymore. And it was almost like a Quaker wedding, where you just sit there, and there was a lot of weight in the room.
And I was kind of like, are you sure? Do we owe it to ourselves to maybe take a break and kind of owe it to ourselves to do this band? And I remember Blake saying, dude, I think we owe it to ourselves to stop this band right now before it gets any worse.
Because, yeah, we weren't friends by the end. We weren't, we hung out sometimes, but, it was mostly for music.
And so it was, it was a really honest moment, but also was painful.
So at the end, it's those kind of personalities, that became the excuse, It's we can't get along. Everybody wants to do something different. And all of those things that had just been kind of novelties and quirks, the whole way through, became the reason to not go on.
They had their own principles. They had their own way of doing things. And probably the ultimate demise of the band was that they weren't happy. And they couldn't do it, as most bands do, for many, 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 many years after they decide they don't like each other.
I miss them as a band. I miss the energy, just that crowd energy when they had everyone convinced that they could actually do it themselves.
Yeah, so I whenever I get anxious, I make a sticker because I don't have any other way to express myself right now. Well, this is my new one. It's real small, though. I miss the truth. I'll just do it spontaneously in the early morning or in the middle of the night, you know, if something needs to be said. And then I take them out on the subway and kind of put them up and track their progress.
What's some of the stuff like that people have written back?
Fuck you.
This is how my kids know about Jawbreaker. I don't force feed them my band, but this is what Mimi used to sleep with when she was a little baby, and she loved it because of the silky stuff here, but it's basically made out of tour t-shirts, and I basically like slept it off. I just kind of like hibernated. I hibernated for like probably like 2 solid months before I kind of climbed out and was like, okay, let's start this next chapter of my life.
The question is, what do I know about Jawbreaker? I hadn't heard of them until I met Adam. Started working here at the video store. Yeah.
Not a fan. Apparently not a fan. So maybe we should take the. So Christy, Dave Hawkins, and I got together and we're like, I don't know, video store? Maybe we could do a video store. Is this okay? Here, that's good. Jawbreaker, not a fan, right?
Well, now I am, because I have to be. Otherwise I'll get fired.
I live in Olympia. Olympia? Yeah, Olympia, Washington. I've been married. We met at Blake's, a Thanksgiving party of Blake's 14 years ago this November. I'm a homemaker. I take care of a 16-year-old cat and try to keep the house clean, and I cook and do the chopping.
Good man, good man.
I think part of the reason I started getting pissed off was I came to the realization I had peaked. And just watching, you take off as an artist was, in some ways, I think it inspired envy and some degree of malice. And I think that's what sort of fucked up our relationship. Sorry, don't mean to bum you out.
No. I mean, I don't have any.
See, that's what I'm saying.
I don't have any bitter animosity.
Yeah, exactly. Really. See, that's. I realized that when I actually talked to you. Yeah. I just, I apologize.
Yeah, well, we did the job. We did the band.
That's true.
I have a blessing. It is a blessing. You have to learn to find it within you.
And then the next time I heard anyone talking about Dear You, it was this lost classic. It wasn't long after they broke up that people were like trying to get copies for like, $100 or whatever. Like,
it's like everybody wanted to buy the album on eBay after it was gone,
It was just a record that was like a little bit ahead of its time. He probably would have fit better in '98, 90 or 2000. He was like 5 years ahead.
I went through a long process of hunting down the masters and trying to get through to people. It took me years to get that record back, but I finally got the record back. So now it's back in print and it's back on vinyl and stuff, and people wanted to hear it.
You have to learn to learn from your mistakes.
It was my second tattoo. This moment in time needs to be documented, and this band saved my life.
People look at it and go, what does that say? Ache? No, it's a fucking Jawbreaker song, man.
We are now, 16 years on. Of all the records I've worked on in my life, it's the one I listen to the most.
I've come to really like the record. I think it's a good record.
It's a great record. What can you say?
If you could save your sound, you could save the song.
The way the three instruments interacted, it had a very unique sound to it. That uniqueness is part of why they're still remembered so fondly today.
I mean, there's still so many Jawbreaker fans that can paraphrase every single Jawbreaker lyric.
Never goes out of style.
For those sessions, really, I mean, I don't know, it was what it was, man. Like, it was a good time. Like, we were all, you know, we're all the same age, roughly, more or less. It was a good time for being 23, 24, 25 years old.
Yeah.
Pretty legendary music, you know, I think. I mean, I hear a lot of bands now that are influenced by Jawbreaker. There's like hundreds of bands that obviously grew up listening to you guys. But who was thinking about that?
So you want to see what we have and then
Sure.
see if you fit in there?
Yeah.
Totally. You guys still get a setup?
Kind of grew up musically together,
Mhm.
so, and it's all documented.
Yep.
Those are like our, they're literally either our family albums.
Right. Last night, this is the Jawbreaker reunion show. Right here, right now.
Yeah.
Not being in a band makes me believe in bands, and so I miss that a lot.
The narrative should end, you know, with that, and not the rags to riches to rags. Punk band sells out. Shame on you, you know. Okay.
What's the score?
It gets loneliest at night, down by the liquor store, beneath the neon sky of moonlight. 6 a.m., fog comes alive, pants out so tight. Already made, hell we're hungry.